Okay, so we saw the definition of index number, right? Meaning of it. And then we saw the types and the steps for construction. And we also saw the problems, right? So here is the meaning, you can see. The value of money, meaning of index number is, the value of money does not remain constant over time. It rises or fall and is inversely related to the change in the price level. A rise in the price level means a fall in the value of money, and a fall in the price level means a rise in the value of money. Thus, changes in value of money are reflected by changes in the general level of prices over a period of time. Changes in the general level of prices can be measured by statistical device known as index number. So we saw that it is a tool, right? Index number is just a statistical tool which helps us to find out the value of money, right? So basically, this is one of the use of index number. And the uses also you can include this point. One of the point and the uses will be this, that it helps in measuring the value of money, right? And there are many more uses of it. We'll look at those things later. We'll just quickly revise this now. Then we saw the steps or the problems. So the first step was selection of base year, right? That how do you select a base year, and what is a base year, and how do you select a base year? Then the second one was selection of commodities. Sorry, what are the type of commodities you need to include, right? Those things we saw under this. Then the third one was collection of prices, whether you should go for wholesale price or a retail price, whether the taxes should be included in prices or not, all these things under collection of prices, right? Then the fourth step was selection of average, that is whether you should go with a simple average or a weighted average, or a geometric mean or a arithmetic mean. Then the fifth step was selection of weights. Now you need to give weightage according to the priorities. You need to give weightage to the commodities which you're including according to your priorities, right? Then the purpose of index number. What is the we need to also find out what is the purpose of index number. Why are we going to construct an index number? Then the seventh step was selection of methods, right? Whether you should go for simple index method or weighted index method, number method. That's it. 7 steps under this, right? Then today we'll be looking at some of the uses. So as I just said, one of the use will be to measure the value of money, right? Yeah, here are the advantages. So uses or advantages, we can say. Advantages of index number. Right? Under this, the first point is general importance. What are its general importance? See, under general importance, the first point, they measure changes in one variable or in a group of variables. So index number measures changes in one variable or in a group of variable. So it is helpful in finding out the changes in one variable, or it can be also a group of variables, right? Then the second one is they are useful in making comparisons with respect to different places or different period of time. So it also helps us in comparing comparison with respect to different places. Different places can be like how are the things in Bangalore when compared to Hyderabad. We can compare it like this, right? Or country wise also you can compare it like India's performance versus other countries' performance like US or something like that, right? Or different period of time also you can compare like what is happening, what is the situation now in 2020. It can be compared with 2010, right? Then after the third point will be they're useful in simplifying the complex methods. So also helps in simplifying the complex methods. They are helpful in forecasting about the future. It also helps us in finding out, predict. It also helps us in predicting the future values. Then the next point is they are very useful in academic as well as practical research. So also help. It also helps in academic as well as practical research. Now the next point, the next uses will be measurement of value of money. So this is one of the important use, right? As we just discussed, even in meaning of index number, we've discussed about this as to how index number helps us to measure the value of money. In fact, the very purpose of index number itself is to measure the value of money, right? So index number are used to measure the changes in the value of money or the price level from time to time. Changes in price level generally influence production, employment of a country as well as various sections of the society. Right? So how does the prices affects us? It affects the production. It affects the employment. Can you tell me any connection between prices and production and employment? Why will the change in prices and how will the change in prices influence these things? What will happen if the prices are going up? What will happen to production? What will happen to employment? So if the prices are going up, the production will fall. Simultaneously, the employment will also fall. It's because if the prices are going up, the demand will fall, right? The demand of the goods will fall. And if the demand of the goods or the commodities is falling, then naturally the producers will have to reduce on their production, right? And simultaneously, if they're going for reducing on their production, then they will also remove out some extra labors, right? So the employment will also go down. That is, the unemployment rate will increase, right? So this is how it is affecting. Okay, then the price index number also forewarn about the future inflationary tendencies, and in this way enable the government to take appropriate multi anti-inflationary measures. So it also helps government in taking appropriate anti-inflationary measures. So we just saw in our first use that how it helps in predicting some future values, uh, and accordingly government can make their policies, right? They can take their anti-inflationary measures. Then the next point, we shall look at the third use, and the third use is changes in cost of living. So index number also helps us find out how our cost of living is changing, whether the cost of living is increasing or decreasing, right? Whether the money which you need to pay to survive, the price which you need to pay for surviving is increasing or decreasing, right? So under this point, index number highlight changes in the cost of living in a country. They indicate whether the cost of living of people is rising or falling. On the basis of this information, the wages of the workers can be adjusted and accordingly to save the wage earners from the hardship of inflation. So when we find out as to whether the cost of living is increasing or decreasing, then that information will help us in adjusting the wages of the workers, right? So if the living cost is increasing, then we naturally tend to increase the wages so that they can adjust with the hardship of inflation, right? Okay, the next point is changes in production. So again, index number is helping us in finding out changes in production. We just saw, right, in our earlier point, how it is. Okay, here again we'll discuss this point in depth. So index number are also helpful in providing information regarding the production trends in different sectors of the economy. They help in assessing the actual condition of different industries. That is, whether production in a particular industry is increasing or decreasing or is constant. So production in different industries in different sectors of the economy, right? It can be textile or medicines or steel factory, anything, right? So there we can find out how the production is changing, whether is it increasing or decreasing or constant, right? Then the next use is importance in trade. So what index number? So importance in trade with the help of index number, knowledge about the trade conditions and trade trends can be obtained. So index number knowledge can help us to know about the trade condition and trade trends. How is the trade condition going on? Whether is it increasing, decreasing, or it's constant. Right? The import and export indices show whether foreign trade of the country is increasing or decreasing and whether the balance of trade is favorable or unfavorable. So export and import indices will help us to know whether foreign trade of a country is increasing or decreasing or whether the balance of trade is favorable to us or not, right? Formation of economic policy. Now, as we just saw, index number helps us find out the values for the future, and this in turn will help us in predicting future, right? Which in turn will help in formation of proper suitable economic policies. So index number prove very useful to the government in formulating as well as evaluating economic policies. Index number measure changes in the economic condition and with this information help the planners to formulate appropriate economic policies. Further, whether particular economic policy is good or bad is also judged by index number, right? So useful in all fields. Well, now the next point. So it is a very broad point. Actually, it is including everything. The index number is useful in every field. All the field is what it is saying. So index number are useful in almost all the fields. They are especially important in economic field. So here they're given one by one, like how it is useful in economic field. Okay, we'll just quickly look at these 4 points and then stop here. I think limitations you don't need to worry about. It's not there in syllabus. We've seen the problems, but limitations is not there. Okay, you can just know about uses. Okay, so in economic field, how is it helpful? So they're useful in analyzing markets for specific commodities. Analyzing market. Then in share market again it is used. The index numbers can provide data about the trends in share prices. With the help of index number, the railways can get information about the changes in good traffic. The bankers in banking again can get information about the changes in deposits by means of index numbers. Right? So that's it under the uses. So it's actually a very vast topic, but if you look at too many things, I think you will get confused. Or do you want me to explain other things as well? I'm just trying to explain whatever is mentioned in your syllabus and whatever the type of questions they have been asking. So whatever you need, that is what I am explaining. Other things is for just knowledge. Like if you want, you can go through it and ask me if there's any doubt. Otherwise, if I go on to explain other things as well, then what will happen is it will confuse you, and it's actually we are also running short on time, consume a lot of time. So we'll just quickly have a glance over whatever we've studied now. That is the various advantages. We'll see this, then we'll move to another important topic, that is of inflation. Right? Okay, so uses. Under uses we saw the general importance. Then the second was measurement of value of money. The third one, changes in cost of living, changes in production. We saw how is it changing the production, how it helps us in finding out the changes in production, right? Then the next one was importance in trade. Then next was formation of economic policy. So we can, with the help of index number, formulate proper policies according to the need of the hour, right? Then it is also useful in all the fields, especially in economic field. And we've seen in economic field how is it helpful. It helps in share market, banks, railways, analyzing markets, right? All these things. So that's it under this topic, index number. Then, okay, if you have any doubts, you can ask me before we proceed to inflation. Okay, so we'll start with this inflation topic. Inflation. So this is another very important topic in economy. I mean, especially from your exam point of view. So you can expect a 6 mark question in under inflation. So here they can ask you about the types and causes. Sorry, not causes, but the effects. Okay, your syllabus mentions about types and effects of inflation, right? So we shall look at the meaning first, and then the types, and then the effects. So inflation and unemployment are two most talked about words in the contemporary society. So you can see everyone is talking about inflation and unemployment, right? These two are big problems, very big problem there. And in fact, inflation, if you don't keep a check on it, even for a month or so, things can change very drastically. So it requires constant vigilance, and inflation will in turn affect the employment also. So there is a relation between inflation and unemployment. As the inflation increases, the unemployment will also increase, right? So there is a direct relationship. Inflation increases, then the unemployment will also increase. Actually, this, like this it is. Up to some point of inflation, unemployment is fine. Only after that, the unemployment will increase. So, unemployment will remain zero or near zero up to some point, up to this point, say, of inflation. And then after it starts to increase. As in how the inflation, you can keep it at y-axis. Inflation is here, and your unemployment is here. Actually, inflation is always written with this symbol. Inflation, I is used for income, and inflation is like this. This symbol you use for inflation. Okay, so up to this point of inflation, the unemployment will be zero only, right? But from here, the unemployment will increase. As now, the inflation is also increasing, right? Just this point you need to keep in your mind. Okay, so almost everyone is sure that he or she knows what inflation exactly is, but it remains a source of great deal of confusion because it is difficult to define it ambiguously. So we're all a little bit aware of these topics, but today we'll look at it in depth, right? So I too have always been talking about this inflation word. Inflation is like in any topic you discuss, everywhere you'll find this word inflation. So it's such important word, unemployment and inflation. You must have also observed in first sem, you must have come across these words. So everywhere these terms are used, right? They're very popular terms. So here we'll be studying about inflation in depth today. So if I have to tell you in a layman term, like what is inflation? It is just rising of prices. Inflation is rising of price level of goods. That is inflation. So if the prices are increasing, then we can say that the inflation is also increasing. Inflation will increase. So there is a direct relationship. Again, here too, right? These relationships you need to be aware. in order to make any decisions, right? Only if you know these things, you can make any decision, right? So, okay. Meaning of inflation, a proper definition we'll see here. Inflation is often defined in terms of its supposed causes. Inflation exists when money supply exceeds available goods and services. So, inflation occurs when the supply of money is increasing in a country without increasing in in the goods and services, right? That is, the money is increasing, supply of money. So say a new printed money has been supplied in the country, but with the increase in money at the same time, the goods, the production of goods and services is not increasing. It's not increasing. Either it is increasing at very slow rate or it is not increasing at all. So it is not in comparison, it is not going in pace with supply of money. Then this problem of inflation will occur. Right? So inflation exists when money supply exceeds available goods and services, or inflation is attributed to budget deficit financing. So budget, so a deficit budget may be financed by by additional money creation. But the situation of monetary expansion or budget deficit may not cause price level to rise. Hence, the difficulty of defining inflation. Right? So, it is a little difficult to define inflation. But simple thing about inflation you need to keep in mind is inflation means general rise in price level. This is what you need to keep in mind. Price level, if the price is increasing, then we can say that the inflation is increasing. Okay, so inflation, again, you have one more definition here. So inflation may be defined as a sustained upward trend in general level of prices. So as I just said, it is a sustained upward trend in general level of prices. So general prices are increasing continuously, and that is inflation. Alright. And now the price of only one or two goods. So we are not talking about prices of just one or two good. We're talking about general level of prices. How? I mean, we take into consideration all the commodities, all the goods and services in a country. So just one or two goods cannot decide if there's inflation in a country or not. When all the commodities, all the goods and services of a country are taken together, and then when we see if their prices on an aggregate level, on an average, if it is increasing or decreasing, and that will give us whether inflation is increasing or decreasing. That will show us the status of inflation, right? So aptly defined. So this is one economist here. You have this. Yeah, this is always good. You can always write the definitions given by the economist, mentioning their name. So it'll be always good if you can mention their name. So Ackley has defined inflation as a persistent and appreciable rise in the general level or average of prices. In other words, inflation is a state of rising prices but not high prices, right? So it's a state of rising prices. Prices are increasing and not of high prices. If already the prices are high, we will not say that there is an inflation. If the prices are increasing continuously, we will say that the inflation is occurring. We will say there is an inflation in the country, right? This thing you need to keep it in your mind. So this continuous increase in price level is what is inflation. Okay, I'll just quickly read out all these other things. Okay, it is not high prices but rising price level that constitute inflation. It constitutes thus an overall increase in price level. It can thus be viewed as devaluing of worth of money. In other words, inflation reduces the purchasing power of money, right? It reduces the purchasing power of money. For example, maybe in 2019, say 2019, 2019 with rupees say 5, with rupees 5 you could purchase one pen. Okay, 5 rupees you were getting a pen, right? But now in 2020 you will need 10 rupees to buy that same pen. I'm just giving you example of one commodity, but as we've just discussed, it is not just one commodity which will decide there is inflation or not. It is the average of all the commodities, right? So you can see the value of money is decreasing, right? What you used to get for just 5 rupees, one pen, for that same pen, now you need to pay 10 rupees, right? So the purchasing power is decreasing, right? So before earlier you could buy two pens with 10 rupees, but now you are getting just one pen. So the purchasing power of money is decreasing. So this is what it means by this sentence. Okay, so a unit of money now buys less, right? Inflation can also be seen as a recurring phenomenon. That is, it can occur again and again with time. So I've told you it is like we need to constantly keep a vigil on this. Otherwise, little bit of here and there for 1 month, if you go for relaxing things, then you can see a sharp rise in prices. You need to always be vigilant on this inflation. It can anytime change. So while measuring inflation, we take into account a large number of goods and services used by people of a country and then calculate average increase in the prices of those goods and services over a period of time. So this is again, see, everywhere you see this period of time is actually very important in economy. Everything happens over a period of time. Period of time. You need to mention this whenever you're writing your definition. So a small rise in prices or a sudden rise in prices is not inflation, since they may reflect the short-term work workings of the market. So if this short-term increase, short time increase, or if this sudden rise in prices, or if it is like small rise in price, then that is not constituted to be a inflation, right? And neither is high prices said to be a inflation. It is rising in price level continuously, right? This is called as inflation. So it is to be pointed out here that inflation in a state of disequilibrium, when there occurs a sustained rise in price level, it is inflation. If the prices of most goods go up, such rate of increases in prices may be both slow and rapid. However, it is difficult to detect whether there is an upward trend in prices and whether this trend is sustained. That is why inflation is difficult to define in an ambiguous sense. So you can see the difficulty in defining inflation. Why is it? Because it is difficult to detect whether there is an upward trend in prices and whether this trend is sustained or not, right? Let's measure inflation rate. Okay, so here they've given you example and this is not required measuring. Anyways, you have seen the definition or the meaning of inflation in depth, right? So now by now you all must have understood this inflation well. Now next we will learn about the types and the effects of inflation, right? I think for today the time is up. We will see this topic, we'll continue with this topic in our next class. So we will see the types and the effects, right? So for today we have seen the definition, meaning.